All right, guys, welcome. Thank you all for jumping in today for our second edition of Coffee with Coaches. Today we've got Smoking Iron Joe Fazzini, longtime member. Has been we just talked about a member for 11 years now. Jumped in back in 2015. Multi-talented guy here. He's been on many podcasts. He's been a race director for a handful of years. He's been a great friend of mine. And more recently is the grandfather of the year, world's greatest grandfather. Says it right there on his mug.
Yeah,
And
that one, yeah, that one doesn't say that. I've got one, but yeah, Piper gave me that one. So
yeah, that's awesome. So, yeah, just wanted to jump in today and talk a little bit more about your background, your history, what got you into coaching, what got you into triathlon. I know the story, but it's a great one to share always. And then just kind of want to touch on a little bit about race directing, what it takes to be a race director, what the nitty gritty of race directing is. I think a lot of us go to races and we see things set up and might be like, oh, I could have done it better, or I would have done this differently. But there's so much that goes into it that the typical athlete doesn't see or doesn't really know about. Sadly, we see races dropping off for reasons that we don't understand or don't know. So maybe we could touch on that for a moment. And then in the coaching aspects, this is the season of mindset. It's tough to stay in that groove, stay in the discipline, especially when there are holiday parties all around. There's candy everywhere. It's dark, it's cold, it's easy to stay in bed. This is when mindset kicks in, and you've really got to push yourself. As Joe, somebody who I know very closely, very personally, you've been knocked down a few times, and you just keep getting back up and punching back as hard as you can, and it's super impressive. It always keeps me fired up, and I value that in you so much, and I think you bring that into your coaching philosophy and your coaching system, and it shows with your athletes.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So give us the elevator pitch of Joe Fazzini, where he comes from, how you got
Wow.
into it, some of your accolades. Let's hear it.
Well, I'm 67 years old, so I've been doing this for a bit. I started training seriously my junior year in high school, um, and never stopped. So I'm a 50-year guy, and when I hear my off seasons, I heard Casey talk about a little, have always been around major events in my life, like heart surgeries, cancer. Those are my off seasons because they force me to sit down because I can't. And but I started being a serious runner in 1976, where I had junior year in high school. I came off the sports industry where injury where I broke an ankle and I snapped my ankle off. I twisted, bigger guys than me twisted my ankle, and I had was a non-weight bearing injury where I couldn't put any weight on it for 9 months. So I was in a cast from my hip to my toe. They had to replace it a couple times. They had to reset my leg about halfway through because one thing about pharmaceuticals, the doctors gave me a lot of pain meds, and when you're not in any pain, I decided I was going to start walking without my crutches with just the cast on, and did more damage than good. So halfway through, I had to really start the process of healing over. But when the cast came off, I had gained a bunch of weight, weighed in at 240 pounds, and I didn't want to be that guy. I could not stand being Fat Joe, you know. And I just started running. Couldn't run a block when I first started, but by the time I started my senior year in high school at 240 and graduated my senior year at 155. And it wasn't that I controlled my diet any better. I just got up every morning and every evening and ran. And long before it was, I considered it to be cool because my first time attempted running was in Pro Keds. And then I bought my first pair of Nike Cortezes, and I'm really proud. I'm really cool that I'm really glad that Nike came back with the Cortez, and I wear them to knock around it now because there's zero support in there. I don't know how we did it back then because they're just flat bottom shoes, and but they look cool back then because nobody else was
Yeah.
wearing them. So, but that's how I really got into the endurance efforts, and was always a gym rat, and did my first triathlon in the '90s. Didn't last long because I had two little ones. I had a daughter and a son, and they took a lot of my time. And I had a robust career. I was doing well with my career, traveled a lot, got to run in some of the most coolest places on the planet, from LA to Portland, Maine to Puerto Rico to Amsterdam. I mean, it's been some of the coolest places on the planet. And everything you hear about Amsterdam, by the way, is absolutely true. It's debauchery at its best. It makes Las Vegas seem like you're at a family picnic. So, but I mean, so I've had a very, very good, robust career, and I've always trained. I mean, like I said on a cast we had earlier, I trained through my teens, my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, my 50s, and my now my 60s. So I've got experience where the only information we had was a Timex, and a scale. And in today's world, you can track anything you want, down to anything to the macros to the micros. So I'm very fortunate that I started my journey at a time where when the first heart rate monitor came out, it was like, holy cow, what is that? And so it's been a very good journey. In 2008, um, well, let me back up. In 2006, I experienced my first surgery. I broke a vertebrae in my back on Christmas Day, believe it or not, going to the gym before I went with my family. Always had to squeeze a workout. I could not give myself a break and cracked my C5 in my neck doing deadlifts. Stupid stuff. No warm up, just got in and started pulling weight and cracked my vertebrae. A month later, I was having a discectomy and a cadaver disc put in my neck. And that was 2006, and today it's still never been right. I still have issues, especially with when I'm swimming a lot. In those days when I was Ironman training, it really bugged me. A lot of shots of cortisone in the shoulder and stuff. So, but in 2008, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I had surgery on my 50th birthday, where they removed my prostate and all my lymph nodes surrounding my prostate, and stayed in remission for about 9 months, and it came back, and I had to go in for radiation sessions. Um, and that didn't work. So I was fighting a battle that my doctors told me that I won't win. And that was a moment of truth for me when even all the training I did and everything else wasn't paying me any dividends. And when they told me that, I was between a rock and a hard place that they couldn't cure it. They started me on a chemical cocktail. They told me I would be on the rest of my life. And whatever that was going to be, whether it was going to be a summer or if it was going to be till 67. And that diagnosis and that treatment was actually got me back into triathlon in 2015. That's how I found the Trilocos through a friend of mine who had just done an Ironman. And my first exposure to Ironman was 1982 when my buddies went to Kona. I mean, we trained all the time. We were riding and cycling and doing everything, but never really put it together to do triathlon. We were just meatheads. We were just, eating Whoppers and French fries and riding bikes and running. So my buddies went on to do Kona. They were 11-hour guys in 82. And they still send me the pictures every time Kona's on. They just have to bust my chops. So that's when the fast forward to 2015 is when I found the Tri Locos and joined, and I just decided that I wanted to be an Ironman, and it was a decision I didn't take lightly, obviously because I was in cancer treatment, and I can remember sitting down with my oncologist and urologist, and I said, "This is what I want to do," and they pretty much told me it's not doable, and I said, well, they said you won't be able to do it while you're in treatment. We'd have to stop the treatment. So I was willing to take the gamble because after so many years of being on that stuff, it was extremely tough, extremely tough. And they decided to listen to me and give me a shot because they figure this guy's going to do what he wants to do anyway, being so headstrong and an A personality. But they took me off and they said, well, we're going to test you every 30 days. And if it comes back, you got to start. And we started on our journey, and I joined the locals, hired a coach, and just started swim, bike, and run a lot, because once I came off that medicine, I started feeling like Joe again. And that's how the term Iron Joe came up, was because I was just so freaking determined to not look back and keep looking forward. And I did my first Ironman, and Josh was there in 2017. So I had 2 years of training. The moral of the story is, though, through all my testing for the cancer, all my tests kept coming back negative as I started on my Ironman journey. So as Josh likes to remind me, triathlon saved my life. And there's a lot of reasons why it worked. Um, but I have a strong spiritual belief. I have a strong faith outside of everything. It's always been first for me, especially the last 42 years. Um, and I believe that there was something much stronger than just my will that got involved in my life. And I'm a meditator. I meditate every day, and I can tell when I don't. Just a maniac when I don't slow myself down. Um, and I've always been a savage, and in my career, in my training, in my goals, I've always been that mentality, and drives my wife crazy. She knows when I'm insane. She knows, and she just reminds me of that.
Yeah, it's something she
So,
loves about you though too, though.
oh yeah. Well, that's like I always told Sherry. I said the reason I fell in love with her. We've been married 40 years, and was her intensity and her independence. Because we find our matches, right, Liv? We find the people we're supposed to be, and it's worked for us. So, but it's never come back. I've still been in remission. So since 2016, it's never come back. So I told the line in 17, crossed my first Ironman finish line in Arizona. Very emotional day for me. Very emotional. And crossed Louisville in 2019. And there's a story to that. I was extremely overtrained by the time I hit the Louisville starting line. I did too much. I was overcoached. Um, and it's very easy to do because you've already done an Ironman and you're trying to be faster, right? And I was just overcoached. I told that line I was exhausted, and that's no way to join an Ironman race, is to be tired. And I guess the magic from the first one had worn off because the second one was extremely hard for me, and it was because I was overtrained. I was healthy, I felt good, and I was getting after it. And I didn't have the kind of coach at that time, and I'm not saying it disparaging the coach I got. I didn't speak up enough to say, "Hey, I'm tired. I need a break. We need to rewind, restep, and tell me what I'm not doing. Too much intensity, too much long. I mean, I was doing 300 miles a week on the bike, and running 30 on top of it. So I was overtrained. So there was a valuable experience for me there. I didn't get injured. I was healthy. I mean, I came out of it healthy. When they canceled the swim that year because of green algae, I was like doing cartwheels. Yeah, I was like, I couldn't, I went, thank you, God. I didn't want to swim, and if anything would have broke me that day, it probably would have been getting in the Ohio. So, I mean, I don't know if that's the elevator version, Josh, but I guess the thing that got me into coaching was the experience of, wow, I did this and I overdid this. And that's what made me go to USAT and go to their training camp in Orlando. Got certified. I just recertified again for another 2 years. That'll still get me through till I'm 69, 69 years old. And I don't see stopping. I've got a good group of guys that I train, and I'm loyal to them. They're loyal to me. And I don't like training more than a half a dozen people at a time. I said, if you really want to do a good job in this business, uh, you can't take on too much. I mean, and I'm not going to go join a coaching group. I would rather do my one-on-one stuff. I've had no problem finding people that want to work with me. There's a lot of people out there that want to experience what I've had the opportunity to experience.
Yeah.
Um,
And what's your philosophy that you bring to those athletes?
well, it's mostly all zone two. I'm a big believer in not just 80/20. I'm a big believer in 90/10. You know,
Mhm.
90% zone two and 10% let's get after it, where you're huffing and puffing and you're going to your knees. And I think that it's about injury prevention. The most important thing for me and the athletes that I work with is how do we not get you hurt? You know, and it's a lot more than foam rolling. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot more than air boots. It's a lot more than, it starts with, I believe, sleep, right? This is one of the most important EPO drugs out there is
Yep.
getting enough shut eye every night. And it's not just 5 nights a week, it's every night. And what do you got to do to get that? It's where the meditation comes in, and that's where the turning off all the electronics comes in. So my philosophy is zone two, go intense when it's appropriate. What I'm talking about is one hard workout a week. The rest of it is trying to focus on where's that perfect zone two? How much do you want to push? Uh, it's and most athletes, one of the biggest, I think, I want to say this correctly because there's a lot of these training platforms that use it is AI. People think that when we do an FTP test and it comes in at 135, but their AI FTP is 155. And they want to argue with me that AI is right. And I've won some of those arguments and I've lost some of those arguments. And they literally get pretty focused and pretty intense. But I think that the AI, the 20-minute FTP test will judge your fitness. That's why, Casey, when you come back, I think that's very important to do one of those right away to see where you're at so you don't overtrain, so you don't get injured. Um, but that to me is my philosophy is let's throw the trash out. There's too much the electronics and the technology we have is all really good, but it can be harmful to the athlete. It lets them believe they're fitter than they actually are. And that's harmful because that's where the niggles start coming and niggles become injured. And this is too early in the season, right, for that to happen. So, I mean, in a nutshell, that's my philosophy. We're going to go slow, we're going to go steady, but we're going to go a lot. You
Yeah.
know, we're going to do 9-day blocks. If you're young enough to handle 9-day blocks with a 10-day break on the 10th, for my age, it's more like 6 days with the seventh day of breathing. Um, but if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, you can handle 9 days, 9-day blocks, and they'll come in increments of a month. We'll do a cycle in a month with a rest week in there or a recovery week in there. Doesn't mean no training, it just means you're going slower.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a little bit less. So
Does that includes a build week to week or 9 day to 9 day?
yeah, it's 9 days. It's always a block, and we'll do FTP tests every 8 weeks. Every 6 weeks, I believe, is too much.
Yeah.
It's too much. But every 8 weeks, and for some guys, it's every 12 weeks. But stop believing what your AI FTP is because it's garbage, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
It's stepping aside from that ego, right? Because everybody
Yeah,
wants that. I was there. Right? There was a time where I was at 357 FTP. Look at me. I'm so big. I'm so fast. And look at me now, right?
I
I've
know.
had 3 surgeries in the last year.
You were a
'Cause
you were a monster, though. Come on, I
yeah.
mean, you were when all the pictures I saw. There was Josh, the leader of the pack. But
Yeah,
when you start breaking down, it's a chain. If one thing gets weak and breaks, other things are going to follow.
yeah,
I.e., 3 surgeries.
yeah. And you can't ignore that niggle. You can't ignore that
No,
little pinch. You got to look at it. You got to take it serious. And yeah, like
that's
I said,
why strength work is so important, I believe. And I always tell people my goal is to make you more durable. I don't care what you look like in the mirror, but I just want you to be more durable.
right.
Because I'm a donut roll guy. I have a midsection, but the fact is I can hold the plank for 5 minutes. At 67, I can still do my stuff. And I mean, that's the first thing I did this morning before our calls. I was over at Gold's just getting my durability working because I'm going to hit the bike when we're done today. So, I'm just a couple miles short right now, of my 5,000 miles for the year. I mean, my goal is this year is to do more, of course. I have a goal I'm really chasing this endurance cycling. I'd like to qualify for the Senior Olympics in Tulsa in 2027. There's a qualifier in Evansville this year for the time trial.
Like yeah,
Uh, so I'm focusing on that. I mean, I've had a couple other hiccups along the way. I've had 3 heart surgeries in the last 3 years. Um, I had a stent put in. I was training for the Mackinac Island swim, which is an 8.2-mile swim. Damien talked me into that. I don't know why I let him talk me into that. And I was training for that, and I came out and I did a 3,000-yard day in the water, and just laced up. I was going to go out and just do a 5K afterwards, and my heart rate just rocketed up. And I came in the house. I told Sherry, my wife, I said, "Hey, I'm gonna grab my keys. I'm going to go to the emergency room and get checked out. 3 days later, they were putting a stent in, and I was 75% blocked in my right coronary artery. Bad genes. My dad died of a heart attack when he was in his 40s, so the doctors pretty much just attributed it to a lot of years of red meat, processed foods, and bad genes. Since then I've had two AFib surgeries. I just had my last one October 20th. So my heart rate, I've had two instances where I couldn't get my heart rate down. Um, they repaired my heart the first time, and it lasted for a year and a half. And I did some big races in that time. I did the 24-hour cycling challenge twice with the first surgery, and then after the second one, um, it came back, and I had to go back and see my electrocardiologist. I think that's what they call it. And he repaired. They had to go in. They had to get closer to the esophagus this time because that's where the damage was, the scar tissue. And they've eliminated that now. I've been good now. I mean, I've probably since that surgery put 1,000 miles on a bike. Um, so I mean, I don't know what I don't know if it's good or bad for me. I go back on the 18th for my 90-day checkup or whatever they call it, and I'll do the EKGs and we'll find out. But yeah, I mean, it's been some challenges along the way, and but my focus has never been um, how do I look in the mirror? It's about how far can I go,
Yeah.
and I still want to go back and do the 24-hour cycling challenge again this year. I got a goal to win that thing. Last 2 years I came in fifth. And I did 25% more this year than I did the year before and still came in fucking fifth. So it's a frustrating day for me. But I had the right crew. Damien was by my side the whole way. And he got to see me at my best and he got to see me at my worst that day. It was a long, about midnight when you're on the bike for 17 hours, it's pretty gnarly experience. And I had the right guy with me though. He was an amazing wingman.
Yeah, for sure. I'm hoping to
So
be out there with you soon. If not next year, the year after that.
I want you there. You know what I mean? I always do better when you're there. So,
So
um,
diving into mindset, I know when
oh,
things get tough for me, I can hear your voice in my head saying "Show no mercy."
yes.
That's like your tagline, and I hear it
Yeah.
in your voice in my head. What do those voices say to you in your head?
Uh, I pray a lot, believe it or not. I'm a prayer and I believe in the higher power. And, when things going right, I have a prayer I just keep repeating in my head. And I know I'm really in the dark hole of the race when I can't get through that prayer. I have to keep starting over.
Yeah,
And it's a Christian prayer. I'll leave it out, but it's something that gives me strength, and I've used it since I was a teenager. Um, so when I get to that point, I said, okay, all right, God, we got to get this mojo going. And I just say a prayer, and I keep repeating it over and over again. And I also like the one that I actually will talk to myself when I'm out there in the dark spots and just say, no pain, no fatigue, no pain, no fatigue, no pain. 1,000 times sometimes. It just keeps coming off my tongue. And I also, when my wife trained with me quite a bit when we were running and when she could run before she had her knee replacement. I always said tell her, I said, you're an eagle. Just imagine you're flapping your wings and you're an eagle. The wind's behind you, and so I mean, I've used a lot of little games along the way. But the most important thing is that I have never had to be encouraged to have discipline. I've always had it. I mean, ever since they took that cast off in 1976, I've had discipline's never been an issue with me. Motivation's never been an issue with me. I've always had a goal. That's like when people don't have a goal in their training, I don't know. I don't get that. I don't get that. It's like how can you just train every day without having an end game for what you're doing?
yeah,
And that's why, when people say I want to do Ironman Wisconsin, it's like I love that. Bring it. Let's get that. Or I want to do Ironman Arizona, which it blows my mind. They ended that race. That was so much fun. That was a great Ironman and so much fun and camaraderie at that event. And but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things I do, but I find out if I get up in the morning and work out first thing, Sometimes it's fasted, sometimes it's not fasted. But that first workout of the day for me is very important. It sets the tone for my whole day. And I like my athletes to, the people go, I got to go to work. It's like, get up at 4:30. What do you mean you got to? I understand work. I've raised two kids and had a corporate job for 40 years. It can be done,
Yeah. Just gotta go to bed a little
so
bit earlier.
yeah, and you got to go to bed earlier.
You know?
You got to find some discipline. When people are going out after dinner, if you're a salesperson, if you're working, let them go. Let them go,
Right.
because that's not going to make or break your career.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive in a little bit on race directing.
Oof.
Give us an elevator pitch on your experience doing that and
Hmm.
and maybe some insights.
I really enjoyed my time as a race director. I just retired from that last year after 10 years. And I had one COVID year break in there. I couldn't get people to approve it. The village, I couldn't get the permitting. It was in Michigan, so, we have a Democratic administration in there, and we couldn't even have a boat on the water where I was at. So, but I was the race director for Diamond Lake Triathlon for 10 years, and it was a sprint, but it was, the first one, I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't have a lot of people up there taking me by the hand and saying, this is what you got to do. So my goal was nobody dying on the start or finish line. But we pulled it off. We had a couple great races. We'd have like 50, 75 people. The last year I did it, we sold out. It was over 175 participants. And we had our youngest competitor was 8 and our oldest was 84. You know, there were signs out there, grandma's for triathlon. It was such cool stuff. I mean, and if you go onto the school web page, our page for the Tri Locals, there's a description of what it takes to get a race done. And it's a lot of community support. And I don't mean just from the town or the DNR or the lake you're trying to do it in. It's the people in the community because you're shutting down their streets. It's the sheriffs and the EMS and the fire departments to make sure that you have safety. It's the sponsors to make sure you can keep the price of the race down. I think that's very important. And nobody wants to pay $190 for a sprint race. I've always tried to keep the target at 60, whether I had the money or didn't have the money. It was a charity event, so anything that was left over just went to the charities we had that year. And I can proudly say that in the 10 years I did it, or with the gap year, we did over $75,000 in charities. And they were all local, except for the Challenge Athletes Foundation, which is, as you know, a big supporter of triathlon as a whole. And that was happenstance why CFA became a sponsor, is that one day I was traveling and I'm running through Midway Airport, and this guy is running the other direction. It was Bob Babbitt. And I stopped in my tracks and I yelled at him. I go, "Hey, you're Bob Babbitt." And he stopped, turned around. He goes, "Yes, I am." And that's how we started to have our conversations. I went to several of his fundraisers for his athletes over the years, but that's how Bob and I met. And every year I wrote him a check from the Diamond Lake Triathlon, to the CAF, and it's still very important to me. I may do go back and do if I go back to the 24-hour challenge this year, they may be my charity of choice. Last year, as you know, I did the Heroes Foundation, which is for Indiana Cancer Research, and they have a cycling team as well. But yeah, I mean that's the rate. There's so many components. You have to have good sponsors, you have to have good participation, and if you're not putting on a good event, people aren't going to come race it. That's why this year when we sold out, um, it was pretty exciting for me. And I went out on top, let's put it that way. The day after the race, I knew I wasn't going to do it again. And because I knew this was going to be, it was hard, it would be hard to repeat what I pulled off in year 10. But, if I could just sum it up, it's a year, it took me a year to put on that event, from reaching out to people, getting the sponsors lined up, sending thank yous to all the sponsors, going out and shaking their hands personally and delivering their shirts for the race, the thank you cards. And I mean, it's just a sense of gratitude for what they do for us. And I don't think that people didn't appreciate it. I mean, I was still the guy going out filling out potholes so the cyclists could have a fast bike course, so they didn't have to worry about swerving around the hole. So there was a lot of asphalt I put down over the years, because trying to get the county and the town to come out to do it, they just wouldn't do it. And, when you get into race week and you see potholes, I could just see somebody cracking their fiber and going down. And that wasn't what I wanted. Yeah, I was everything. And everything you hear about race directing is true. It's one of the most fulfilling. I got to meet so many fantastic athletes and people. I mean, that I'm dear friends with now because you're cheering them on at the start line, and I could still remember the 8-year-old girl. You were there, Josh. The 8-year-old girl that her name was Abigail crossed our finish line at 8. I remember when her mom signed her up. I said, "You're doing a relay, right?" She goes, "No." She wants to do the whole thing. And she freaking pulled it off, and it was like, here she comes around the corner, man. And it's like, when you talk about go girls, Casey, those are the thoughts that come in my mind. An 8-year-old girl has now completed her first triathlon. What if she goes on to the world championships and she could say, I got my start at Diamond Lake Triathlon. It's just, I get goosebumps just thinking about it because that's the type of impact I always wanted to make with this race. Is I wanted people to come back and say, this gave me my start. This is why I keep going.
Yeah.
And
I wholeheartedly believe that one of the best races, it was always my favorite of the year. The hard part was it was pigeonholed in there. There were no hotels
yeah,
close. So it was really tough to get to people there.
yeah.
When it is a 35,
But
45-minute drive.
somehow you always managed it, Josh. I mean, we'd have
Always
30,
get it
we'd
done.
have 30 locals show up at this
Yeah.
little local race, and then their families were there all there spectating. And we put a lot of them up in my house too over the years. And, my wife would get a little frustrated. They're sleeping on the floors, they're sleeping on but that was, she always would tell me when she had to entertain the triathletes, she goes, I don't speak your freaking language. She goes, I can't, get out there and talk to your people. I can't talk to them. Well, yeah, she just doesn't speak triathlon. She's good for about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
If she gets after about 15 minutes, she goes, I can't talk about chain rink. I can't talk about FTPs. I can't do it. So,
Yeah. She was a great
you
swimmer.
know, oh yeah, she's been great. I drove her crazy over the years.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm grateful to have stepped away and valuable experience. And I wish I could tell you I'm done. I don't know where the future is going to take me. If somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, Joe, you want to do something?" It's hard for me to say no to
Mhm.
that. Um, but we'll see. Who knows what the future is going to be.
Yeah.
So,
There's still a little flame flickering in the back of my head about us getting
oh,
something
shut
rolling
up.
here.
Oh no, no. Because if you call me, I'm in. It's like this is wrong. Shut up.
Yeah.
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 Cool, man. Anything else you want to add? And then we can jump into some Q&A if Casey and Liv have any questions here.
No, I'm good, brother. I just appreciate the time everybody gave us today.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
time is a valuable. It's a commodity, and I appreciate you giving it to us.
Yeah, certainly.
You
It's always great to hear stories. And next week we're gonna jump into a little bit more of the strength training aspect of
know.
triathlon. And Casey's got a bunch of questions she's gonna bring to the table too. We'll do that with Danny.
Well, and I'm working with my PT. I have a PT that I use all the time with dry needling and more prehab than rehab anymore.
Yeah.
And she's great. I tried to get her to join us today just to experience what we're doing, but she had some family commitment. Sunday morning's tough for people that go to church and whatnot. So, but I'm working on Rachel. You guys would love her. She's a doctor of physical therapy, and I found her through Mike Gastineau. I called him one day. I was having major shoulder issues, and I said, "Hey, I need some dry needle like right now."
Uh,
And he said, "You need to call this lady." And she got me in, and I went in probably 2 weeks of some dry needling with the electrolysis on it, and that's how I started my daily prehab was the stuff that she gave me. And little things like don't ever foam roll your IT bands. And I've been foam rolling my IT bands for 40 years. She goes, I'm surprised your knees aren't gone, but so I
Okay,
mean,
elaborate on that one.
she just would rather do the muscles, the hamstring and the front of the quad versus rolling straight on the IT band. and it's the irritation it causes in the tendon, the connective tissues to the knee and to the hip. And yeah, I was doing it for years, and she said stop. And she started giving me the other prescriptions. And some of the stuff that she gives me, I'm getting old. I can't do it. So a lot of band work. Put it that way, a lot of band work. Stopped doing shoulder presses and did more band work. Because more it's about keeping the labrum, what's left of it, health in my shoulders healthy. Keeps my neck and my traps and my supraspinatus strong. Because I am eventually going to get back to swimming. Once the ice melts on the lake, I'll go back in the open water.
He says
I
he
haven't gotten
says
my
from Florida.
yeah. I could be swimming every day in the ocean. The group is there, and you can do 2,000 yards, you can do 6,000 yards. They have a group for everybody, and it's I just haven't gotten my goal there yet. And I even went to see Rachel right after I got done with this year's 24-hour cycling challenge. My neck was stuck in a prone position. I couldn't get it straight, and I needed a lot of work. It was 75% of my time was spent in Aero for 250 miles, and it paid a heavy price for me. But it took me 3 weeks to get my neck back where I could make. But that's just age to me too. It wasn't that I wasn't strong. It wasn't that I wasn't prepared. It was just the age is catching up to me. At 67, it caught up to me.
Mhm.
Um, but I think I'm going to go back. So, there's no doubt in my mind I can win it. There's just no doubt in my mind I can win it. It's just getting there. And Damien was there with me. He tried to get me back on the bike. And I was in one of those FU type moments. I'm throwing up. I mean, I'm literally throwing up on myself because you can get back on the bike. It's like he would have gotten back on the bike. That's what disappoints
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
I know that.
He's the
I
one
bet
you
you,
can hear from too, because
yeah.
he's done the distances.
Oh, I know. But no, that's all I really have. I just think that if we can get Rachel on, she would be
Yeah,
a great Zoom call too, Josh. She would add a lot to people. The things that they're doing now that they probably should back off of, that
yeah,
are not truly prehab.
yeah.
Um, so that's about all that. Thank
Cool.
you.
Yeah, we'd love to talk to her. That'd be awesome.
I'm working on it. Yeah.
Cool.
By the way,
Casey.
in my mug, you never asked me
Oh
what's
yeah.
in my mug.
What's
I've
in there?
got Starbucks peppermint mocha, and it's killer.
Is it
I,
good?
I I bought it at the grocery store about a month ago because it came out for Christmas. Now that's all I have right now in my. I had to go on Amazon and like order a case of this stuff, and it's like that's what I'm drinking for right now. Or at least until it runs out and they don't make it anymore for the holidays. So
Yeah,
They got
yeah.
stock up
yeah,
for spring.
it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Peppermint mocha, Starbucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So mine, I've been on a little strange concoction: raw
Oh,
egg, heavy whipping cream, turmeric, and cinnamon, and a little bit of honey, and then of course coffee.
of course,
Uh,
coffee.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's surprisingly the raw egg is a little bit sweet. You whisk it up and it gets frothy, and throw the milk in there.
Hmm.
It's good.
I'm not sure. I'm undecided. I also have my alkaline water, so I'm there too.
Excellent. Yeah, same. Cool. Any other questions, ladies?
Yeah, yeah, I'm Joe. When you first like wanted to get into like directing a race, why? Like, because you, I mean, I've directed a kids race before, and starting from scratch, there's just you don't know what you don't know. It is like
Yeah.
the hardest thing in the world and an uphill battle. Like, why would you willingly get into that?
Yeah, that
Has it always been like an interest of yours, or
absolutely not. No, it was to meet people, to be honest with you, is that I've a place up on Diamond Lake for the last 30 years, and I've always trained up there. I mean, the roads up there are spectacular, and they got some of the best gravel riding on the planet. And I just one day I did that Diamond Lake Triathlon. It was when there was 40 people in this lady's backyard, and she did it one year. And I was out doing a loop around the lake, which was 9 mile run. And I just one day stopped. I said, "Man, it was so much fun." And I was in cancer treatment, and I said, I just stopped, knocked on her door. I go, "Hey, are you going to do anything with this?" She goes, "Oh no, I'm done. Too many people complained. I couldn't handle it. People were complaining about the parking. They were complaining about shutting down the roads." I said, "Well, if you don't mind," I said, I'm going to take it over and I'm going to move it to one of the marinas on the lake. She said, it's all yours. She goes, I don't want anything to do with it. And so I did. I moved it to one marina that we outgrew. I had to move it to another marina because we outgrew it. And but that was how it happened. It was just happenstance. I was out for a run and said, man, that was fun. And I just said the rest is history. I mean, I'm fortunate that I was a member of the Tri-Locals because the connections they had with the community, from Rudy Project to Bora to Floyd's. I mean, all the different sponsors I was able to get that contributed either product or money. Um, I mean, we had aluminum recycler companies to the ambulance company would show up for free. I mean, the community, once they started getting it out and I really started promoting it, but I did a lot of labor. And that was, to me, was the fun part, was the people. I enjoy being with people. I enjoy being with athletes. I enjoy trying to explain what triathlon is and what we're going to do with the money. I mean, I had an elevator pitch that I laid on anybody who would talk to me about. But it was happenstance. I mean, I did this little try on the lake, and and that's really when the bug took off for me. It was like that was 2012, I believe, or 2013. I was sick as a dog. I could barely run. I was really, really sick from the chemicals, and it was. I can see where God was working on me to plant that seed in my head, which led me back to Ironman, which led me back to being in remission, which led me to being in remission from cancer. I'm a spiritual being. I am. I believe. I'm a believer. I'm a true believer, and I won't, you can't talk me out of it. I mean, I have enough tangible proof to know that when I connect the dots, they're unconnectable, and when I could see that there was a picture that was drawn for me. Um, but I also wanted to bring fitness to the community on of Diamond Lake. There was nothing up there for it. There was a couple of tries that were being put on by this group. I'll leave the name out of them. They sucked. I used them for a couple of years. They were terrible, terrible partners, and couldn't put on a safe race. And finally, I just had the conversation with them, and then I took on a lot more of the work myself, from getting the porta potties, and putting up fences and marking roads, and that was how it started. But once it starts snowballing, it's really um, I wish I could tell you it goes on autopilot, because it never goes on autopilot. You're still 4:30 in the morning before the race. You're still around connecting dots, making sure that things are happening, from the water cups being put out to, everything, that the signs being taken down at the end of the race. I mean, but that's how. I wish I could tell you there was a big reason, but there was a lot of little reasons that led up to that. That's why I'm saying never, never again, because as much as I complain about it today, I really truly enjoyed it, because it was the connections I made with people that made it more valuable than anything.
Very fulfilling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. Definitely passion project. I put on a few races back in the day with a few guys, and that nothing beats that race day feeling. You're so tired. You put everything, heart and soul into it, and then just seeing people cross that finish line with smiles on their faces, coming up, hey, when's the next one? Let's do it again. And like all that hard work pays off. But that's just like in triathlon, the mindset through that year of planning and preparation, where you're sending thousands of emails and you're just like, what is this even worth? No one's
Yeah.
responding. You just got to keep going, keep grinding, and then you get there and you're like, oh yeah. And I
Yeah.
was there with you for, I don't know, 8 of the 10 at the finish line, picking up dead animals off the course,
Oh
setting up
yeah.
that stuff, and
That I'll never forget that time I said, hey, there's 8 dead raccoons at the turnaround. Could you go get them off the course? But
yeah,
but but two things I'll close with is, one is the Annabelles. The Annabelles of the world make it worth it when you see an 8-year-old cross your finish line.
yeah,
And two, it's just, people always ask me, how much do you make doing this? I never did it for a dollar. I never made any money, you know. And that's the thing. Is I said one year I bought a shovel at the hardware store for $29 that I still have. That was my pay for 10 years of racetrack. It
we're gonna
was
gold
all,
plate that shovel and hang it on your wall.
yeah, I mean, it was a charity event. It was designed to, give back to the community. And whether it was for the local homeless, or, I mean, a lot of times it was for, how it really started. There was an athlete who was, his name was Alex Stosserbine. had a coronary. He was an IU linebacker. Had a coronary at the finish line of Eagle Lake Triathlon, which is defunct now. But and he was a quadriplegic for the rest of his life. And I kept that as our main charity for probably 5 years of that because he was in a home. He couldn't take care of himself. His parents tried, they couldn't do the work. One year we bought him a wheelchair, electronic wheelchair, and one year we bought him a laptop he could talk into. It would talk for him. I mean, he was completely an invalid, and it's a sad story. And the guy goes from being a 240-pound linebacker to 120-pound guy, and it couldn't talk. So that was our main charity for a long time. So he asked the reasons. I mean, there's a lot of little reasons that made up for the story. But that's what I mean. It wouldn't be just to put on a race to make money. I don't even care about money anymore. I've got it. It's like it doesn't matter to me. So it's more about giving back because this sport's given me everything right now. It saved my life, and that's why when there's hard days, I got to remember there's been much harder. Much harder, and then I'm still winning. You know, so I don't know. That was a long answer to your question, Casey. I wish I had a main thing I could just say this was the reason, but there isn't. There's a lot of middle ones.
Truly an inspiration, Joe. You're the man. That's it.
I got a lot of good people in my life. It's still about people at the end of the day, from my home to my friends. And I don't have to see my friends every day, but I know they're there. That's
Yeah,
what's important.
yeah,
So,
yeah, for sure. All right. Well, if there are any other questions, we could end on that. Justin, thanks for jumping on with us, brother.
Sorry, I was late. Better late than never.
Hey, all good, man. All good. Well, I appreciate you guys jumping in here and being with us this morning. Keep an eye out for more coffee with coaches to come, more questions. I'm always open to ideas. If anybody has anybody they want me to pursue to host on here, I'm in for that, or any topics you guys want to talk about, just let me know.
I think you should get Jay on as we approach Carmel.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good idea.
Because, I mean, that's really, people should be in there. If they're doing Carmel in April, they should be hitting it right now.
Yeah,
So,
cool. Yeah, I'll reach out to him and we'll go from there. So much love, guys. Stay loco, get some training in or don't. Enjoy your off season, and we'll get after it later.
peace, guys. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye bye.